Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another round of Basis Picks. As always, please like and subscribe, share with a friend, a colleague, a relative, an associate, an enemy, any and all in between. It's appreciated. Now we've got to get right into this. As you guys know, the GBM sports card is taking place as I'm talking. So we're literally just going to do 3 of the events. I don't know if they're the last 3 on the card, but those are the ones we're going to talk about very briefly. And then we're going to go to the card taking place in Scotland tomorrow. Both of these are on DAZN. And yeah, we're going to get out of here. So without further ado, let's get into the picks. Okay, so look, the first one we're going to talk about is Reese Mould and Lewis Sylvester. This one, look, I know a little bit of Reese Mould. I've seen him on a bunch of Matchroom fight cards. Lewis Sylvester, I've seen him on a couple of occasions. I know he's got a 15-1 record. I haven't done a huge amount of research on him. I do know he's only got about 4 KOs on his record though, so 15 fights, 4 KOs, not the biggest of punchers. He has been knocked out in his one loss as well, which is very interesting. Obviously that was to Sam Noakes, who is known as a big puncher. Without any particular thought process to it, I know Reese Mould is also a very light punching guy. 20 wins, I think he got like 6 KOs and 20 wins, but he's also got 3 defeats. But I feel like he just got a bit more of that pro experience, and for that reason I'm just going to go with Reese Mould to win that one. But I think it's going to be a points decision, so that's why I'm leaning on that. Next we're going to go straight to Maxi Hughes and Archie Sharp. Now this fight is probably a much harder fight to call. Now Archie Sharp 25-1, but he is basically, I would say he's got a bit more of the ascendancy to go. Like, he lost his last fight to Ryan Garner. It was a competitive fight, but it was a unanimous decision for Ryan Garner. However, on this one, I feel like he's kind of got a bit more left in the tank. He's kind of got more gears to go, whereas Maxi Hughes is what he's going to be. Now Maxi's definitely been in there with the better level of competition. Like, you're talking about William Zepeda, was one of his last fights. He actually, you know, scored the upset against the diva Gary Cully, although maybe it wasn't an upset in hindsight. But he's been in there with Kid Galahad. He's beat him, he's beat Ryan Walsh, Giovanni Straffon. Like, Maxi Hughes is the, you know, he's like Mr. Go at this point. And I feel like just that extra level of experience in the big game, in the big time as well, sort of in those big game fights, that Archie Sharp just doesn't have. He hasn't had those, and ultimately I think even though he's trying to get on the ascendancy, I think Maxi's just a level or 2 above at this point, and I still think he's got enough in the tank to let it all hang. So with that being said, I am going with Maxi Hughes to win the fight. I'm going for a points decision. There's every chance I think he can get a knockout, but I think it's going to be conservative. I think you know, I don't think Archie Sharp is wanting to taste that canvas or get stopped by the referee. So I just feel like he's gonna try his hardest, but he's just not going to be able to overcome it in the end. Maxi Hughes to win, unanimous decision. Now, main event, you got Terri Harper against Natalie Zimmerman. I don't know a huge amount about Zimmerman. I've seen a couple of the people that she has fought. Ultimately 13 wins, 0 losses, 3 KOs, so not a big puncher, but most of the women aren't. However, she's 42, so she's a bit more grizzled, but all of her opposition is very nondescript. Adina Kiss is probably the only relevant name, who obviously by that time was a very well-respected journeywoman, but a journeywoman she definitely was. I see absolutely no reason why Terri Harper doesn't win this fight emphatically. I'm going for the stoppage. I think Terri Harper gets her out of here between rounds 7 to 9. I don't think it sees the final bell, and if it does, I'm going to be extremely disappointed. Terri Harper has been in there with much higher levels of opposition at much higher weights than 135, so I am expecting Terri to do the business extremely well, and yeah, put on an emphatic showing in Doncaster. Now we move on to the fight card taking place in the SSE Hydro in Glasgow on Saturday, being headlined by Josh Taylor and Ekko Esserman. Again, I'm not going to go through all of the fights on the card, but there's a few that I am obviously a bit interested in talking about. And full disclosure, and this may be bad on my part, obviously this is a very Scottish heavy card. I don't know a bunch of these people. There's a couple of the names I kind of recognize, and maybe I've seen a fight or two, but there's a lot of times where I might see a fight but just not know the name of the fighter, the name of the person that's actually fighting. So that could be the case with a bunch of these, but I'm going to go with the fighters that I know. So Alois Jr. versus David Jameson. Now to me, this is going to be an interesting fight. Like, Alois hasn't necessarily faced anyone on the upper levels of the the British scene at this point in time. David Jameson has in fact fought a couple of those guys. He's fought Chev Clark, he's fought Mikhail Lawal. I mean, look, he lost to those people, but ultimately he has been in there with those that have won legitimate British world titles, so he's definitely been able to compete at that British level. Whereas Alois Jr. doesn't necessarily have any of those bigger names on his resume. But with that being said, he's definitely, to me, got the much higher ceiling. He's also the younger guy. I feel like they're naturally more explosive. And as much as this is going to be Jameson's home country, I don't know exactly where he's from in Scotland, but it's his home country, so technically it's his home turf. He's going to put it all on the line in the ring to make sure he comes out with a victory. But I think a lot of that, and the fact that he's not going to be just on the back foot trying to survive, is going to be how he ends up getting stopped in this fight. I do think Alois Jr. wins the fight. I think it goes some rounds, because Jameson's going to be tough, he's going to be game. But I think by about the 7th to 8th round, the fight will be over and Alois Jr.'s hand will be raised. Okay, so after that one, Nathaniel Collins and Lee McGregor. This is an interesting, a very interesting fight. You've got Lee McGregor, who's 15-1-1, and you've got Nathaniel Collins, who's 16-0. Now, Nathaniel is got just under a 50% KO ratio, so he's not necessarily like the biggest off punches, but he's got enough in the tank, enough in the locker. Whereas Lee McGregor, he's got a few more KOs on the record, but he actually was competing at competing at lighter weights initially. Actually, no, technically, sorry, he was competing at what weight is the last one? He got down to featherweight. But he's used to compete between feather and super feather. I think he's been up as high as 140 before, so the weight cut itself is going to be an interesting situation. But I think he's staying at sort of that featherweight limit now. He's got the punch power, but I feel like Nathaniel Collins has got the better skills. That's the way I see it, and I feel like this is going to be one of those box the fighter, fight the boxer type fights. But I think that the skill level of Nathaniel Collins is what's ultimately gonna take over and take effect in this. So I do think that Nathaniel Collins wins the fight. I do think he wins it on points, although I think he wins it on points. I think he does just enough to keep himself in front in the fight, and yeah, points is the decision I'm going for. Next, Moses Atalama versus Mike Balagan. Now look, Balagan is actually, he's a strong, capable guy, fast hands, does have combination punching, but look, whether or not he kind of went down to the payday, or whether Gassiev was really that sort of that harder puncher, knocked out in the second round, only loss of his career, but never really fought anyone on that world level before that. Now, is Moses on the world level? I guess we won't know until he beats someone that we know is proven world level, that we consider proven world level. So long story short, Moses is going to win this fight, and he will win it by knockout, but I think it's going to be between rounds 3 to 5. I think Balagan will give him a couple rounds. I think that Gassiev loss probably made him feel that, alright, you know what, I understand the chin ain't exactly where it needs to be, but I'm tough, I'm game, and I'm a proud, loud American, so ain't no way you're just gonna sort of blow me out in one round, especially in, you know, an environment where the American audience will quite easily be able to watch the fight. So yeah, I'm gonna go for Moses Atalama to win via knockout, but I do believe it will be between sort of rounds 3 to 5. I think he will get a couple of rounds out of this fight, but hey, anything's possible. Now, going to the main event, Josh Taylor versus Ekko Esserman. I think that fight in itself is a very, very risky fight for Josh Taylor. Now, look, Ekko Esserman has never proven himself to be above British level in terms of just, I guess, his accolades more than anything else. But he's a hard night's work for anyone. It's a very bold fight to take in your first step up to 147. I think that ultimately Josh Taylor has miscalculated this one. I think the pace of the engine and the fact that Josh just seems to be a little bit shot to bits at this point in time, I think that Ekko's going to outwork him. I think Josh is going to have some early success, but I think Ekko is just going to keep the pressure on him, stay on his chest, make it that really nasty, ugly, rugged fight that, to be fair, Josh doesn't mind, but he hasn't really done that well in as of late. And obviously I'm looking at this version of Josh, not the version that ended up being undisputed champion at 140. I think Ekko Esserman causes the upset here. Yeah, he may not have the experience of Josh Taylor against the bigger names and the better quality of fighters overall, but he's used to fighting people bigger, taking shots from people that are bigger, and always being able to graft and find a way. I don't think it's going to be pretty. It could even be a little bit controversial. I don't see him stopping Josh Taylor or anything like that, but I do think he will do enough work in the judges' eyes to get this. It could be a split decision, but I'm going to go for unanimous. I think he will just eke it out, 115, 113s kind of across the board, something along those lines. So yeah, that's my prediction. I think, yeah, the experience and obviously the world level pedigree of Josh Taylor is one thing, but he's not at that world level right now, and he's moving up into a weight where Ekko Esserman excels. And I just didn't think the work rate and maybe not even so much the power, but ultimately the work rate itself and just the strength and the ruggedness is going to be enough to sort of keep Josh Taylor holstered for the majority of the fight. So yeah, that's my prediction. Ekko Esserman on points, a unanimous decision. Please let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share. But for right now, that's Basis Picks. Locked.